Hi, this is David Mann with UltraMusician, and today I want to talk about voice leading. Voice leading is probably one of the most important concepts that you need to know as a composer, and it's something that's often overlooked by musicians who are just starting out. What is voice leading? Voice leading means trying to get from one chord to another by moving as few notes as possible. Let me show you an example. So let's suppose that we want to go from a C major chord to a G major chord. Now, if we just use the brute force method, we would just go from here to here. But if we do that, each note in the chord has got to move all the way from here to here. Okay? There's a much easier way. And the answer is we take the G major chord and we invert it. Invert it means taking the bottom note in the chord and moving it up an octave. So for example, if I took a G major chord and I went up like this, I'd have the same three notes, G, B, and D. They're just in a different order, B, D, G. Now you can also invert down. So if I'm here, and I take the top note and move it to the bottom, this D goes over to here, and I end up with this. Or I can do it again, take this B and move it down, and I end up here. So what you're looking for is you're trying to find an inversion that is as similar as possible to the original position you started out with. So in this case, if I was on a C major chord, the correct inversion for the G major chord is this chord. You can see visually how much smoother that is because I don't have to move my hand. This was the old way. This is the new way. And your ears can hear that it's a much smoother sound. That's much more subtle than this. Okay? Now, how do we choose the right inversion? Well, the first thing you look for are common tones. So in this case, C, E, and G, and G, B, and D, there's one note in common, and that note is G. If you have a common tone, always keep the common tone in the same position when you switch to the new chord. So for example, I'm here. I want to keep this note and not change it when I move to the new chord. The other notes in the chord should move the shortest distance possible in order to complete the chord. Well, I've got already a G, and I know that I also need a B and a D. So what's the shortest distance I could move these notes to get to B and D? Down. I'll give you another example. Let's go from C major to A minor. So let's suppose we went from C major and then we went to A minor like this. C major and A minor have two notes in common, C, E, G, A, C, E. These notes are common. That means that those notes should be held when you switch to the new chord. So in this case, the note that needs to move is the G. Okay? And where is it going to go? It's going to go to the A. Because now we have a complete A minor chord. A, C, E. It's still an A minor chord, it's just in a different inversion with the C on the bottom. C here, E here, and A here. So here's some quick rules that you can use to help you voice lead in almost any situation. So we know that we need to keep common tones, but if you think about it, if we're on a C major chord, there's only so many chords that we can go to from that place. So if we have a quick set of rules that we can memorize, it makes voice leading easier. So if your root C is moving up a fifth, the correct voice leading is this. Keep the fifth in common and move the root and third down. So the root and the third go down. Now that would work no matter what the two chords are, as long as it's moving up by a fifth. So for example, if I was on an F chord over here, and F was going to C, which is also going up by fifth, F to C, F would go to this. See, it's the same pattern. The root and the third went down. If the root moves down a fifth, in other words, you were on a C major chord and it goes down to an F major, the correct voice leading is to keep the root and move the other two notes up. And again, that's going to work no matter what the two chords are, as long as the root is moving down by fifth. Okay? If the root moves up by a third, you just take the bottom note, the root, and you drop it one step. Okay? So in other words, if we're going from a C major to an E minor, the easiest voice leading is C major. You drop that note down one, and now you have an E minor chord. It's still E minor, it's just an inversion of E minor. Okay? If the root goes down a third, like this one that we did, keep the first two notes the same, and you move this note up by one. Okay, now we get to the tricky part. The tricky part is if the chord moves up by a second. So for example, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to take a C major chord, and I'm going to go up to a D minor. This is going to create a bunch of problems because, first of all, there's no common tones. So there's no obvious way to figure out the correct voice leading. Also, C major to G minor is going to create something called parallel fifths, which in classical music is avoided totally. In modern music, it's used sometimes, but you should always be aware of it. Why don't we like parallel fifths? It sounds like the Romans are coming. Okay? Another problem that it creates for us is that if all these notes move up, now our bass player is going to be stuck because he doesn't want to go up, because that's going to sound a little bit too monolithic. Everyone's going to be moving the same direction. And we'd rather have the bass move in a different direction than the notes on top. So anytime you go up by second, first figure out what the most obvious voice leading is, which is to go up, then do the opposite. So instead of going from C major to D minor this way, we're going to go C major to D minor this way. Okay? Now that's a really tricky rule to get the hang of. We always do the most logical voice leading, except if the root is moving up by a second. Okay? So for C to D minor, instead of going to here, we go to this inversion of D minor. And that's going to work no matter where we are. So let's suppose that we were on D minor, we wanted to go to E minor. We go to this inversion of E minor. If we wanted to go E minor to F major, we would go E minor to F major, like that. So again, this is David Mann with UltraMusician. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial on voice leading, and I hope you check out some of my other materials online. Thank you.